And so I want to encourage you to bow as often as you can before him. The next one, number 4, Habakkuk 2:20. This is one that I wish I could teach my kids, but it's hopeless. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Sometimes, as we come together and worship the Lord, and his presence it says in the Bible that he inhabits the praises of his people. He dwells in the praises of his people. And sometimes as he does that, we see numerous instances that they could say nothing before him. Silence. And sometimes saying nothing before the Lord is the most profound thing that we can ever say before him. Because he's awesome. He's worthy. And sometimes we just stand there, sit there, bow there, and just say, wow, he's amazing. So be open to that. That could happen. I was leading worship at a Promise Keepers regional event many years ago, and I had like a 12-piece band, and it was huge, big sound, and there was a moment in our worship where the presence of God was just so tangible, and we could all feel it. And on stage, the whole band went down to their knees. Just over the course of a couple of minutes. And then I took my guitar off and I went down on my face. And a few minutes later I looked out and the whole 600 guys were on their face. The aisles were just full of people, just worshiping the Lord in silence. Not saying a word. You could hear a pin drop in there for several minutes. It was awesome. The presence of God. Little taste of what we'll get to experience in heaven. Psalm 96:1 is number 5. One of my favorite ones. Oh, sing to the Lord a new song. Well, the new song thing, I struggle there, don't I? Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth. We bring him our song. And I have heard so many people say, well, I don't really sing. You know, I really can't sing. And well, that's why he put the Bible verse in there, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Because you don't have to really be able to sing all that well. You just have to be able to kind of grunt or sing out, or, you know, sometimes we're a distraction, but that's okay. You do it with all of your heart. And when we sing to the Lord, it's a sacrifice of praise. It's hard to sing. It's easier to speak, but it's hard to really belt it out and really sing with all of our hearts. That's part of the sacrifice of praise. But it doesn't have to be pretty. Unless you have a microphone, then it really should be pretty. But it just needs to be sincere. He says, make a joyful noise. And when we sing to him, he loves it. He loves it. He looks forward to us getting together and singing to him. Can you imagine? He loves it. He loves when we gather in all the churches around the world. I mean, it's got to be the greatest thing for him. And one of the things that I learned about singing a while back, and I still learn it, is that it takes your whole body to sing. You can't just sing from the neck up very well. And I took voice lessons, and I thought I was going to go crazy because the person who was giving me voice lessons kept trying to help me to sing with, you know, my whole body and support notes, and I just didn't get it until after like a year and a half of voice lessons. It was a very expensive lesson. And then I started to understand, okay, it takes your whole body to sing. That is such an incredible picture of how we're to worship the Lord and walk with him. He wants our whole being, our whole selves. So don't be afraid. Belt it out. Make a joyful noise. Take the elbow hits if you need to, you know. It's okay. Keep going. Next one, Psalm 47:1. Another one of my favorites. Because I struggle in the area of joy. I need more joy. And these help me. Singing. This one says, oh, clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to God with the voice of triumph. Clapping and shouting to God with the voice of triumph. Sometimes I think if we were if we flashed to a football game, and we're all on our feet, and we're screaming, and we're clapping, and we're yelling for our team, and then we flash to church. And then you flash to the football game, and it's like, flash to church. let's bring a little bit more of the football game, into church. I'm not going to say it either, but that it's a command for us to do. He knows that it'll make us happy and to shout and to clap to Him, and it will honor Him if we're doing that with all of our hearts. And it's a very powerful thing. He wants to give us a garment of praise for a spirit of heaviness. And a lot of times we can break that heaviness if we'll clap and we'll shout. Maybe you should just try it at home. And then maybe there'll be a time where we can do it together. And we've had times like that. It's been awesome. And the last one, as I'm finishing up, I'm not going to talk about it because it's dancing. And I argued with the Lord all week. And, I can't talk about this. And He's like, sure, it's in the Bible, so go ahead. It's Psalm 149, 3 through 4. It says, let them praise His name with a dance. Let them sing praises to Him with the timbrel and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in His people, and He will beautify the humble with salvation. And, I thought about busting a few moves up here for you guys. But, no. Trust me, you don't want to see that. This is something in my prayer closet, with the door locked, that I would do before the Lord. But I did see a prominent pastor at another Promise Keepers convention with 50,000 men in Los Angeles Coliseum about 15 years ago. Was anybody there by any chance? And the pastor that was there, he just felt like he was supposed to worship the Lord and dance before Him. And he just did this really simple little dance and lifted his hands up and started praising the Lord, and tears started running down his face, and the whole place just erupted in praise and worship to the Lord. It was very simple. It was dancing, I think, has to be done very carefully, and it should be in a church context considered by the elders and all that. And then I'm just throwing it out there because they're out of town. Man. I am so busted. Can we erase that from the tape? So, we're okay. Very holy before the Lord, everything we do. So that's a little bit of what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about how worship is going nonstop in heaven, how we can join it. And then as we get together, it can just be amazing, even more amazing than it is. And it is amazing to lead here and to be a part of our worship. But I know the Lord always leads us into more, and He leads us from glory to glory. And so those are some things on my heart. Now, I was in Wales a few years ago. Actually, it was a lot of years ago. And I was in this church service, and there were some sweet gals behind me, and I think they were probably 148, 150 years old. They were older ladies, Over there, like, they have doorknobs older than our whole country, so everything's kind of relative in that way. But this pastor delivered this message, and then we dismissed, and I heard the gals behind me talking, and one said, wow, that was a great message. And the other said, yes, it was, but it doesn't do any good if we don't apply it to our lives. And I just want to ask you, just quietly in your hearts as our worship team comes up and we get ready for our last song, what would be the thing that God has spoken to you about? As we've opened His Word, He is faithful to do something in our hearts by His Spirit. So I just wanted you to think about what might that be as we've been together, as we've opened His Word, as we've worshipped. Put those things in your hearts, and as we enter back into a place of worship now before Him, just pour your heart out to Him, and let's stand and pray as we worship together. Lord, I thank You so much for how much You love us, God, and I thank You for how You change our lives, Lord. I thank You that You don't leave us, You don't forsake us, but You you help us to be more like Jesus. And so, Lord, if anything's been said here today that helps us to be more like Jesus,